accountability and transparency, welcome you to iHeart Learning, and this continued professional development course is on managerial leadership in health, a guide on being in charge. Module 3 is on accountable management system, AMS. The outline of this module include the introduction, definition, objectives and types of accountability, the categories of failed accountability. We also look at definition of accountable management system and the key elements, and look at accountable management practices, financial accountability, and internal controls. On completion of this module, participants will be able to understand the definition, objectives, and types of accountability. They will be able to describe different categories of failed accountability, define accountability management system, and be able to identify the key elements. They should be able to describe accountable management practices and also understand financial accountability and internal controls. Accountability is the obligation of individuals or institutions to provide information and justification for their actions to other actors, along with the imposition of sanctions for failure to comply or engage in appropriate action. What is most important here is to note that it is an obligation of individuals, it could also be an institutions, to provide information, not just to provide information, but also to supply justification for whatever actions that has been taken to other actors. It also includes imposition. Without imposition, it cannot be said to be fully accountability. It involves measures to ensure that providers with the authority to provide services actually delivers that service and are answerable for their actions, and also to demonstrate that they have delivered. In the absence of accountability, merely allocating public resources for health goods and services may not necessarily lead to desirable health outcomes. Accountability ranks right at the top with management commitment as a critical ingredient in a health system management. As an aspect of governance, accountability has been central to discussions related to problems in the health system, particularly in public health and healthcare delivery. There is a great deal of concern about accountability in the health system due to growing dissatisfaction with health system performance. There are a lot of discontent on service availability, on access, on costs, which we all know is escalating, abuses of power by institutions and providers. There is also lack of responsiveness in terms of how quickly we react and how positive we react to citizens' needs. There is the issue of financial mismanagement and also corruption. Therefore, improving accountability is an essential element in improving health system management and performance. Let us look at three types of accountability. There is the performance accountability, And this deals with performance measurement and evaluation and service delivery improvement, including quality of care. There is the financial accountability, which deals with compliance with regulations, guidelines, and procedures regarding financial control and management. And there is also political accountability, which deals with the relationship between the state and the citizens, discussions on citizens' participation, equity issues, transparency and openness, responsiveness, and trust building. There are three broad objectives of accountability. It includes assuring compliance with ethics, could be medical, nursing ethics, ethics for laboratory scientists. There are procedures and standards within various professionals. The next is reducing abuses, and this includes frauds and waste, and also improving performance. Let us look at the categories of failed accountability. There are three groups. One has to do with health development projects and programs. And issues here include mismanagement of contracting process, abandonment of completed and uncompleted contracts, abandonment of supplied and donated items, diversion of equipment and supplies, including operational vehicles. There are issues of false projects or non-existing projects or data reporting that are false. We also have the second group, which has to do with health and medical service delivery. Here, absenteeism is on top. There are issues of unofficial payment and various types of abuses, frauds, and waste, including professional misconduct and malpractice, using uncertified personnel, issues of kickback schemes, diversion of clients or what we call self-referral, and also providing unnecessary care. And the third group has to do with infractions in provider payment system, primarily in the health insurance domain. And this includes false claims, waiving co-payments, improper coding of drugs and upcoding, and many other infractions or malpractices. Let us look at what we mean by Accountable Management System, AMS. AMS is a comprehensive and integrated set of principles and procedures that enables organizations and the people who work in these organizations to be fully effective and efficient. In health, the use of AMS ideas have resulted in health organizations that are good places for providers to work and that substantially increases performance, service delivery, and health outcomes. Let us look at the three key AMS elements. Application of Accountable Management System enables health organizations to structure appropriately to achieve its mission goals and objectives, and also staff with employees that are fully capable of doing the work in their roles, and finally establish accountable management practices. Let us look at the organizational structure. Structure of an organization is provided by the functions, roles that are established, and the relationships of the functions and roles to each other. We know in Medicare there are different categories of medical services. We also have finance functions, administration, human resources, etc. So the organization is provided by these functions and also the relationship between these functions. An organization that uses accountable management principles can determine and establish different functions and roles, the correct number of managerial levels that are required, and place functions roles at the right level. The relationship between roles and functions is clearly spelled out both for the vertical relationship between manager and subordinates and for the lateral role relationships for working across functions. The functions and roles and the function and role relationship that are clearly defined and understood provide a foundation for an effective organization. When functions or roles and their relationship to each other are confusing, there is uncertainty, conflict, and also wasted effort. Functions and role clarity coupled with clear accountability builds personal confidence and generates trust between individuals and the organization. The second area is the staffing the organization. Work and tasks given to different roles vary in complexity, and the ability of each individual to do work and task differs as well. Look at, for example, nursing and medical services, administration and finance. Therefore, one of the challenges in building and maintaining an effective health organization is to select the right person for each role. The AMS provides procedures for ensuring that each employee has a manager who can work at one level of complexity higher in terms of status, in terms of seniority. This provides everyone with a manager that can add value to and set context for the work to be done. The importance of team in healthcare is very, very fundamental. Healthcare is based on team approach. Teams are an essential component of health organization success. In order to be fully effective, each health team must have a manager who is accountable for work of the team. Health manager may or may not choose to appoint someone else as team leader to direct the work of the team. Team members are accountable as individuals for their work as contributing participants. The third area is accountability management processes. There are clearly defined processes in the AMS that enable work to be done effectively. And there are 4 of these processes. The first one is performance management. The AMS performance management process in healthcare includes managerial planning, which has to do with service planning, human resource planning. It also has to do with service and context setting, task assignment in terms of appropriate design of job descriptions and work schedules. Has to do with feedback, coaching, appraisal, and continual improvement. The second process is 3-level management. This is key in the health sector. The establishment of a working relationship between each manager and his or her subordinates, e.g. the medical and other managers, nursing or pharmacists, enable more effective communication. It also provides each employee with someone to assist him or her in consideration of long-range career opportunities. The third process has to do with cross-functional working relationships. People who must interact with each other but who are subordinates of different managers like doctors, pharmacists, and nurse midwives are frequently very unclear about what accountability and authority they have with right to each other. People who must interact with each other but who are subordinates of different managers like the medical officers, the pharmacists, the nurse midwives are frequently very unclear about what accountability and authority they have with regards to each other. In the AMS, all the necessary work processes and work systems are integrated through the use of clearly defined working relationships. What has previously appeared to be a clash of personalities disappear when working relationships are clearly specified between roles in different functions. The fourth process is talent pool development. In the AMS, provision is made to regularly review the entire pool of staff in the organization to ensure that each employee is fairly considered developmental and promotional activities, that employees are valuable with the necessary capacity and knowledge to meet current and anticipated staffing needs. Let us consider management leadership. Management make decisions about how they want the work in their unit to be done. However, leadership is grounded in the managerial role and the work of that role. We have looked at managerial roles in our previous presentations. And let's recall that there are three groups of managerial roles: the interpersonal, the informational, and the decisional role. And you recall that interpersonal is more about a relationship as a figurehead, as a leader, and as a liaison between organizations. The informational role has to do with monitoring, disseminating information, and also as a spokesperson. The decisional role has to do with being an entrepreneur and also a disturbance handler, usually conflicts, resource allocator, where the resources are distributed, and also negotiator in terms of conflicts. In order for work to be done effectively, there are leadership practices managers must carry out. And these practices include managerial work planning, very important, clear task assignment, has to do with job descriptions and schedules of work, giving feedback to organization, to other stakeholders, which has to do with good communication, coaching, supportive supervision is most fundamental, the performance reviews that has to deal with measurements, evaluations, and appraisals, and finally, team meetings and also context setting. On management accountability, managers are held accountable for the output of their subordinates. This idea is central to the accountability management system. It is the manager who decides what each subordinate is to do, the resources they are to be provided, and when assignments are to be completed. It is also the manager who revises plans and priorities if a task cannot be completed as originally specified or scheduled. All managers must exercise leadership. Managers are accountable for maintaining a team of qualified and capable subordinates, leading subordinates to agreed upon goals, the results of their subordinates' work, their own personal effectiveness. Managers do not delegate all of their work. They do some of their work themselves, and they get assistance with their own work from subordinates when the need arises, and they delegate some of their work. In order for managers to be held accountable for the work of subordinates, they must have certain authority with regard to their subordinates. They must have the authority to judge how they will get the work of their unit done, and to decide how effective any given subordinate is doing his or her own work. Managers are the ones who decide promotion and merit increases within organizations. Managers also need to be able to veto the selection of someone to be their subordinate. And managers should be able to initiate the removal of a subordinate from a role if they do not believe the individual is capable of doing the work. Subordinates also have authority and accountability. Subordinates are accountable for using their best efforts in working to achieve the tasks they are assigned. They are accountable and have the authority to discuss task assignment with their managers and review any problems they anticipate or that may develop. They are also accountable for providing their manager with ideas as to how processes might be improved. When a task is in progress, a subordinate is accountable to inform his or her manager if what has been assigned cannot be completed as specified for whatever reason, in time for the manager to take adaptive action. This might, for example, happen because circumstances have changed or certain aspects of the task were not fully understood or anticipated initially. When a task needs to be modified, the subordinate is expected to make useful suggestions as to what might be done about the situation. It is the manager, however, who adjusts the task, its priority, and the resources available. Working this way assures that there are no surprises and that everything is done on time as assigned. The manager-subordinate relationship is a two-way working relationship between adults. The manager-subordinate relationship is a two-way working relationship between adults where the best ideas of each are applied, recognizing that the manager has a broader perspective and the final say if there is no complete agreement. Let us look at financial accountability and internal control practices. Financial accountability deals with compliance with regulations, guidelines, and procedures regarding financial control and management. Internal control is synonymous with management control, and it helps government program managers achieve desired results by effective stewardship of public resources. Internal control is defined as the system of internal administrative and financial checks and balances designed by management and supported by corrective actions to ensure that the goals and responsibilities of the organization are achieved. Internal control practices is a process affected by management and other personnel designed to provide reasonable assurance in the achievement of objectives for effectiveness and efficiency of operations, reliability of financial reporting, and compliance with applicable laws and regulations. Internal control serves as the first line of defense in safeguarding public resources, as well as preventing and detecting errors and frauds. A significant relationship exists between internal control procedures and fraud incidents in terms of practices and policies. What are the foundational elements of internal control? Foundational elements of internal control are basic to the effective management of any organization. They include separation of duties, cash management, independent review of transactions, and also forcing the entry of cash receipts into a system. Others include cash registers, and the ensuring receipts are a key means of creating the accounting entry. Purchases for personal use and thefts of inventory and supplies can be deterred by checking items as they are received. Among the most effective deterrents for fraud is an independent review of the documentation to determine its validity. The absence of such controls raises concern about the level of risk under which health programs and facilities are operating. Let us take an online assignment. In what ways does poor management and financial accountability affect health service delivery? Online submission to be marked CPD AMS assignment of not more than 500 words to iHeart Learning through our email address iheartnigeria@gmail.com. Let us take a vision of the future. Late Professor Oliko Erason Kuti, Honorable Minister of Health at the time, had this vision. That as a Minister of Health, my vision of the future is quite clear. We look forward to the day when, for all time, the fear of ill health will be removed by our homes and villages by the availability of health services that are accessible, affordable, and acceptable to every Nigerian. I believe that comprehensive PAC is the most powerful strategy to achieve this happy state for our people. I also believe that we have made some real progress in putting the primary healthcare system in place in Nigeria. This is in 1992. Let us reflect how far have we gone with this vision. Healthcare success begins with effective leadership and governance, and effective managerial leadership is indispensable for building a health system that would address inequity and inequality in health outcomes. Support and join iHeart Nigeria. Our dream for a strong health system and better health outcomes will remain a dream unless we work for it. Working for it requires strong leadership, effective management, and transparent governance.